So let's talk about Hayley Welch for a second. You know who Hayley Welch is, Lee?
Never heard of her. Tell me more.
She's the Hawk 2 girl. You know? The Hawk 2.
Don't know what you're on about.
We might have to even just put the clip of it over the top of this because there's no way I'm doing that right now.
Play VT.
Play VT. Hawk 2, spit on that thing. Whatever she did, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
She went viral. Very, very viral. Like probably one of the most viral that anyone's ever gone in the history of the planet. Because now she's got like, I don't know what it is, 5 million followers. All of this stuff. But there's a big difference between being known and being respected. Massive difference. And I think like the majority of people, doesn't matter what she does from here on, won't give her the respect that she probably deserves. Even if she goes on to like make an amazing business, impact many, many lives, people will still refer back to her being the Hawk 2 girl. So the reason that we bring this in is because today we want to speak a little bit about going viral and what that's all about. Because if your plan is to just go viral and there's no strategy behind it, or there's nothing behind the virality, then what's the point? So Leigh, what's your idea on virality and what's your opinion on virality?
Well, I'm just on Google here. I want to Google the definition, the actual true definition of viral. So I think this would be a cool way to start.
Something that spreads. It sounds like a disease. No? Would it be? Would it be something like that?
Yeah. So it says, so there's two meanings of it, of the nature of caused by or relating to a virus or viruses, of an image, video, piece of information, etc., circulated rapidly and widely from one internet user to another.
Oh, wow.
So there you go. That is what the Google dictionary says about viral.
So it's basically a virus.
Yes. And I guess if you deepened the virus thing, I think it got its name from that because it spreads easily. Something that spreads easily. So that's a cool place to start. We have the definition of viral now. It's cool.
Yeah.
Let's flatten that one there. Mm-hmm. But we're speaking in terms of content and business and things that we put on the internet. We're not talking about diseases today, although, you know, some would argue that some of this is a mind virus. But anyway, that's not today's topic. That's a different podcast. Virality. So Ty Lopez says, in his world, anything that gets 3 million or more views, he classes as viral. Mm-hmm. So that's another definition of viral in the content world. So I like to start there because it's important that we contextualize what that means. And I think I love where we're going to take this podcast about the pros and cons, the ups and downs, the positive effects and the negative effects of virality. So what we're seeing right now is this whole, it's kind of like, it's like growth hacking for people, right? It's like viral hacking. That's what I see it right now. Is like people are just trying to like hack the algorithm to make things pop. And some people do it for a really good purpose. And some people do it with no purpose whatsoever. They just want to see if they can make shit go all over the world for absolutely no reason. And that comes with sometimes can come with negative costs because it becomes with like an at all cost mindset of like, I will do whatever I can to get as many eyeballs as possible on my stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's quite interesting where that goes. But yeah, we're going to be speaking about it in terms of content and why you might want to go viral, why you might not want to go viral, and then there's certain things to look out for, and essentially, yeah, how that can tie into your business or not.
Yeah, totally. So the $1 million question here is why go viral? That's the $1 million question. Like, why go viral? And just to give this another piece of context, like we literally just signed up to a coach last week whose whole thing is about creating content that goes viral. But caveat, disclaimer, it's going viral for a very good reason. There's a strategy, there's a plan, there's products in the background that help people. And for that reason, it's a very valid purpose and cause, whatever you want to call it, to go viral. So what we've recognized in our own stuff is that like our content, I would happily stand on this statement. I think our content is some of the most valuable content that exists in the hair industry out there. We've put a lot of effort into it. Over the years, we've put so much effort into it, actually. You know, it's probably a little bit mind-blowing. You know, if you look at some of the stats on our pages and how consistent we've been and how valuable that stuff has been for years and years. This is podcast episode 60-something. I wouldn't be surprised if we're closing in on our 70th podcast where it's just us and a couple of guests here and there. That's a lot of hours talking and a lot of content to be created. And that's just one format, right? But what we've realized is, how in the name of the Lord have we not gone viral yet? Mm-hmm. Because there's a framework to going viral. There's a strategy to going viral. And if we could just take a little bit of those frameworks and we could take a little bit of that strategy and sprinkle it over the top of what we do, which is already valuable, then we're going to be able to help a lot more people. So that's the big difference there. It's not that we're going viral for the sake of going viral for something that is junk food, you know, because content kind of falls into these different categories, right? Like you got the stuff that is, you know, I won't break it down. This is something that Taki shared with us, and I can't remember exactly how it goes. But like basically you have these different categories where things fall into boxes of like usefulness versus like entertainment and just junk food, right? Like food is food, right? Content is content. You know, you can eat food that is good for you and that's valuable for you and that's nutrient dense and rich, but broccoli is boring, right? Broccoli is boring. There's some other health foods that are equally as good for you that are a lot more exciting. When I think of something like fruit and certain types of fruit, that is something that's a lot more exciting. So we want to get our content to be like the fruit of content, right? The easily digestible, easy to eat, full of nutrients, full of value, hydrating, does good shit for you, basically. Versus, are we going to be the Doritos of content? Are we going to be the chocolate of content? Convenient, easy to do, easy to grab, easy to eat, addictive in many respects, but is it of value in a net positive return for us as human beings in terms of our psychology, not just what goes into our body? You know, we're feeding our minds with this stuff, hence why it's called a feed on Instagram. What are you feeding your mind with right now? And it's all that viral shit shows the human condition, like at the moment, ultimately, because what blows my mind sometimes, and I'm just going to say it because fuck it, it's my podcast. I'm just going to say it. What blows my mind to smithereens sometimes is how some shit is just going viral out there, and it is absolute dog shit. I put a post out the other day saying most content is dog shit, and it fucking is. It's garbage, junk food, complete and utter shit. And I'm just going to go on a rampage because I don't care. It's terrible, but it goes viral, and it does traction-wise and numbers on these platforms better than, say, some of the content that we create, which we put a lot of time into, a lot of soul into, a lot of crafting into. But, and this is something, and this is a big but. How are we judging how well it's done? Right? And this is something that we speak to our clients about all the time. Would you rather be popular or would you rather be profitable? Right? And we watched a massive creator. A video came out yesterday, and this is something we've been speaking about for a long time, but a video came out yesterday from a massive creator in the fitness industry speaking about how he's just after parking his 500,000 subscriber YouTube channel and starting a new one where he only has 5,000. But of those 5,000, he has an engaged, interactive audience, people who are willing to buy, love his stuff, versus having 500 gobshites on an audience, right? Who are never going to buy any of your stuff and just talk absolute nonsense and not really contribute anything good to the world. That's a negative spiral, in my opinion. Like, that's just like a big tumbleweed that's just getting in everyone's way, rolling down the road, on the road of life, on the way to our dreams. It's just fucking noise, and it's annoying. But what we want to do is contribute to a different type of tumbleweed that's bringing plenty of value and giving people things along the way, so that collectively, as humans, we can do better for the planet. Now, getting back to why, or sorry, not even why, but how are we measuring it? Getting back to that for a second. What this creator is after realizing is that he has 500,000 gobshites in an audience that never ever buy any of his stuff. Never. They'll never buy any of his programs. It's not, and look, let's not even talk about how like they're just buying his stuff. It's the value exchange, right? It's how is he giving them people value and helping them with their lives? He's not. He's getting caught up in the trends, and the trends were directing his life rather than what product do you have to sell behind the scenes, and why is it not connected to that so that you can ultimately help people? Content is the veneer, yeah, like. And fucking hell, are we in an industry full of veneers? Like, it is just the veneer industry. Like, and that's the thing these days. It's so easy to just fucking smack on the teeth, do the hair, put the content online, and think that you're getting somewhere. But the feeling internally, you know that, like, deep down, you can have the veneers or you can have the fucking blonde hair. You know that your hair is not blonde. So how can we make the world a little bit of a better place where you know that you have the confidence with the blonde or without the blonde, and that you're just perfectly fine for the world, and that God made you the way he made you, and it's all okay. But anyway, back to the point.
That was brilliant. I was enjoying that.
what makes it successful for me? It's bums on seats, right? Like we said this in Turn Content into Cash at Hair Festival. It's bums on seats, whatever that looks like for you. Products sold, courses sold, classes sold, people coming into our mentorship program. And it's amazing. It is phenomenal, guys. The amount of your favorite content creators out there online, on the internet, who are making $0 from it. You'd be surprised.
Loads.
You'd be very surprised. So Hannah turned to me last night and she said, "Oh, and I can't believe Dan Bolton only has like less than 10,000 followers." Now, if you don't know who Dan Bolton is, he's a coach, really cool guy, less than 10,000 followers, but has made about $10 million from the 10,000 followers. So, yeah, how many barbers do you know that have over 10,000 followers and nowhere near $10 million?
All of them.
Basically, you know,
yeah.
Like, I don't know, you name somebody to me that you know who has $10 million or who has done $10 million worth of sales in the barbering industry. And let's weigh up the type of exchange as well, right? Because it's not just $10 million and all of the hours that he's ever spent in his life working to make it. It's no, it's $10 million with minimal effort.
Mm-hmm. With lifestyle design still intact, right?
Lifestyle design.
Mm-hmm. I love the food analogy. I love that as well. Like talking on the scale of healthy to not healthy. You know, we all need to eat food, but then there's like super nutrient dense food, and there's not. And
we have a choice.
Yeah. So there's a little train of thought that we need to follow here, and what a lot of people don't realize is the platforms that you post on to go viral on are never going to censor you from going viral. They don't care really what it is as long as it goes viral. And this is what our content coach taught us in Fiji, was that you work for the platforms. That's what a lot of people don't realize. You as a content creator, first and foremost, work for the platform. So the platform make money out of you being on the platform longer. So the longer people are on the platform, they make more money. So first and foremost, you work for the platform. So people have to remember that. That's why they don't care initially. Like, yes, your stuff might get filtered and, banned and shadow banned, all the rest of it later on. But initially, the gates are wide open for virality because they don't care. We have to remember that.
And if anything, they go down the negative route first, right?
Yeah.
They optimize for the negative because they know how much it's going to fucking catch.
100%. And so, but does that mean we don't take any responsibility? No. But most people don't think too much further than, I'm just going to do this thing because I can. Well, not all ideas are good ideas, and just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? So,
oh yes,
let's just get that one out there.
That's a t-shirt.
But yeah. So first off, we need to realize that who you work for is the platform. Secondly, the bingeable stuff. Like, so virality is essentially bingeable content, right? It catches eyeballs and then you just binge it. You watch it. No joke. I saw this guy the other day. He's been putting out some viral hair content, right? They're like 3 to 5 second clips of him just sectioning hair. Like, there's no value. There's no nothing. It's just a visual hook, right? It's just pure and simple a visual hook. These things get like 2 million views. It's got like something crazy like 250 watch hours on this thing. Now that's bingeable. If you ask me, that's bingeable. But back to the food analogy, right? If you binge really healthy food, the body has a natural cutoff. If you keep eating fruit, there's only so much fruit you can eat until the body goes, I think we're done. There's only so much grass-fed, grass-finished beef you can eat until your body's like, you know what? I think we're done here. But you give me a bag of Doritos, I'll go through the whole bag. Give me 10 minutes, I want another one. Give me 20 minutes, I'll probably think I could probably smash another half a bag.
Oh, yeah.
Not the same. You give me chocolate, you give me a bar of Cadbury's chocolate, I'll polish it off, and then I'll go half an hour later be like, oh, that was nice. That's kind of gone down now. Maybe I could get some more of that.
Yeah.
So the unhealthy stuff has no binge limit to it, but the healthy stuff does, right? The body has a natural cutoff. So I think the same with content, and I'm only just using myself as a example here. If I'm watching stuff that's good for the mind, good for the soul, it's developmental, it's informational, it's educational, I get through a bit, and then I'm like, yeah, that's enough. That's enough. I'm going to go use this now, or I'm going to go share this now with my close relatives or my coaching group, or with Owen, or with someone, or I'm going to go write it down. I'm going to expand on this idea. But if I'm just watching like dog shit online all day, I'll literally doom scroll for like an hour. I've lost hours of my life just doom scrolling on unhealthy. Why? Because it falls in the unhealthy category of, oh, another one. And all it's doing, if anyone's any bit familiar with Andrew Huberman's work, you're just spiking dopamine. That's all you're doing. And you have to be very careful with the dopamine system, because the dopamine system is a central reward system for the body, and it's what makes us do shit to keep us alive. Now, if we're artificially spiking the dopamine system, we're setting ourselves up for addiction. And it's really scary. And one of the definitions that I've heard of an addiction is short-term gain for long-term downturn. So short-term gain, long-term negative effect. Think about that with food. Fruit, short-term gain, long-term positive. McDonald's, short-term gain, I get to survive, pretty tasty, feel good, it's cheap, long-term negative effect. Here we go. So some sorts of drugs out there, maybe a hard drug. Let's throw heroin into the mix.
Oh,
short-term gain. You ask a lot. You ask a lot of heroin users. No, fuck it. It's our podcast. We can say what we want. You ask those. Ask those users.
It's one of those mornings. Let's go.
Like, it's the best moment of their life. The best. Long-term downturn.
They know, bro. They know internally that that's not good.
So, they know. So, and here we go a little bit further. We're now into the realm of responsibility. So, Then another part of an addiction, again, I could throw myself into this. Mine's not necessarily substance. It might be more behaviors, workaholism and perfectionism and all those other things, right? But it's trying to find the feelings that you want without responsibility. You're not taking responsibility for how you get the feelings. And this is where we're back to awareness and mindfulness. So that's one of the big dangers of this bingeable viral content, is that, I know that might sound a bit woo and, oh, Leigh, that's a bit deep and blah, blah, blah. But okay. But you prove to me otherwise then. I'm also not making this stuff up. This is stuff that I've got from very highly regarded scientists who've done the studies and show the research. And they're like, the dopamine epidemic is pretty bad right now. People are losing their social skills. They're getting more depressed. Suicide is up, especially in men. Like the stats aren't looking good. So if we're going to go viral and we're trying to make our stuff viral, why don't we try and do it with bingeable, short-term gain, long-term upturn? Why don't we try and do that? That gives people something to think about, that inspires them, motivates them, educates them, makes them maybe even laugh a little bit in a good way, and let them go about their day and think about these things. So first of all, we have to remember the pipeline of thought. You work for the platform. You want your stuff to go viral? You're playing with the platform. Okay. Secondly, what column does it fall into? Do you want to put it in the bingeable unhealthy food column, or do you want to put it in the bingeable healthy food column? Because for me personally, I know which one I prefer, and I know which one makes me feel better. So we're starting to think about the ripple effect of our work now. And this is where we get out of just base level thinking.
Yeah. Of
like, just because it's an idea doesn't mean you need to do it. Not all good ideas are a good idea, right? And I love where you went with it. It does show the collective condition of people.
It does.
Because to go viral is such a dopamine hit. What is eyeballs? What is 1.5 million eyeballs on your content? What's that? That's love in a certain way. That's recognition. It's validation. For most people, that's a form of love. So you can either take responsibility for the way that you get love or not. It's up to you. But either way, you can't complain about the results that you get. And so that's where my mind goes when it comes to virality. And that's why now we've held off, and I've particularly held off getting a viral content coach, because I haven't really found one that meets my own personal values. And when we met our guy in Fiji, he brought in the values piece. On the surface, his content looks very funny and it's loud and it's vibrant, but it
doesn't look like that, which is funny, isn't it? It doesn't really look like that, but it is.
But it's anchored in value, and it's anchored in purpose, and it's anchored for the benefit of humans. Now, he's playing the psychological game. He understands that if I put virality on my stuff, I'm going to be able to help a lot more people. The ripple effect of putting virality on that kind of purpose, that kind of value, and that kind of mission, I don't think is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's an age-old thing. It's been going forever. Look at religion, right? Like Christianity, they needed virality, and it went viral. Like, it's gone viral. It's another example of something going viral. Now, it's helped a lot of people. It's hurt a few people, but it's helped a shitload of people. Else it wouldn't go viral. So it's interesting, and that's where my mind kind of sits right now, in terms of like, we're just sitting on kind of the moral side of things right now. We're not even dipping into the business side of things, but the moral side of things, like, that's just outwardly. Then if we go inwardly, something that the video that we were watching this morning on YouTube with the creator that shut down his platform, going viral for something. See, there's this thing out there right now where people are like, all right, if I just learn to go viral, then I'll build my audience and eyeballs, and I'll use the at all cost mindset. I'll do whatever I can to go viral, and then I'll take it seriously, and then I'll start to feed my audience with value. Not so fast. You've got to be careful, because there's nothing worse than 500,000 to 1 million people knowing you for a certain thing, and they love you for that thing. You being silly, or putting out stupid stuff, or ripping on people, or speaking negative, or just zero value stuff. And that's what they follow you for. That's what they know you for. That's what they love you for. And you're stuck with those people. And that's all they want. And that's all they want from you is just that. And that's what that creator was speaking about on YouTube. He was like, I built an audience of 500,000 people. These are his words, not mine, of donuts. He was like, I had 500,000 donuts on there. People just wanted silly content, me ripping on people, blah, 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 blah. Now, I get it. I get the thought process and the strategy behind it. And I hear it all the time because I ask people, like, they tag me in their videos. Oh, bro, look at this. It got millions of views. I'm like, fantastic, man. But like, what's the plan? And it's like, oh yeah, well, I just want to get the eyeballs and build my following and blah, blah, blah. It's like, be careful though, because remember, you're building your personal brand all the way through this. And if people get to know you to be that person, it's hard for them to forget that. And that's where people struggle. So is it because you have your purpose, mission, values locked in and you just want to be that person consciously, or is it for a different reason? I think it's for a different reason. I think the validation and the dopamine hits are so strong for these people that it overthrows the fact that they do have a deeper purpose and mission, but the wounding goes so deep that they'd rather get the validation and the love without responsibility over just trying to put better stuff into the world.
Yeah, it's a big problem, and I think it's much closer to the virus word than we even realize. You know, because it essentially is a virus, and it spreads, and it. What I don't think people realize how much influence that they actually have. You know, the whole word influencer has been thrown around for many, many years, but like I don't think people realize how much influence they have, number one, but like what is going to be the cost of that influence as well. And like, what are you contributing to the world? It's like, what are you contributing? Like, is this content contributing? Like that's a big question to ask, because how are you contributing positively towards the world? If it's not contributing positively towards the world, then I think there's always going to be a moral conundrum, you know, and people aren't optimizing with the end in mind. And that's something else that came from Fiji. It's like, optimize with the end in mind. Not tomorrow in mind, not next week in mind. And I think the barbering industry at large is just caught up in today, tomorrow, next week, next month.
Yeah.
Like that's
like we said,
it
it reveals the collective wound, right? And
yeah,
I love where you go with that, because like, you have to optimize with the end in mind, because there's nothing worse than waking up one day and having an identity crisis. So people see all the people that I speak to are trying to go viral, like to use the strategy of I just want to get eyeballs first, clearly aren't listening to the people that have already done it, because the people that have already done it will tell you it doesn't work like that. They will tell you, yeah, get eyeballs, but be careful of the eyeballs. Even our coach tells us, clean your list, clean your followers list. If it's not the right type of followers, not the right type of people, get them off your page. Get them off your page, because that's going to completely fuck with how you, number one, the views you get, the type of people that you interact with, and the type of money you can make. Clean your follower list. Like if you're attracting the wrong type of people, so eyeballs for eyeballs' sake isn't always a good thing. And the people that have done it, like we said, this creator, 500,000, 500,000 people on YouTube, making some, okay money. And he was like, it just didn't work. And I've heard a lot of people say that. You build a cult following of the wrong type of people, you're in trouble. Very, very hard to change them. And who else said this as well? Was Stephen Bartlett's social media marketing agent. I can't remember her name now. I think her name, like the Social Climber or something, is it her on Instagram? I think that might be her name. She said, I go and meet these businesses who they might have like 20k followers or 30k followers, whatever, and they're completely cold. What the business is trying to sell them is not what the following wants. And she says, I usually tell them to shut that page down and start a new one, over trying to convert those 20,000 people to want the thing that they want. She was like, sometimes it's just easier to just close the damn thing down and start again. That's coming from someone at the upper end. Look at what she's done for Stephen Bartlett's brand, blown it through the roof. And she says it's hard to change people. So that's a danger zone, and not many people are being told this. They're chasing the virality, but what they're not being told, they get a strategy to go viral, yeah, but the person who's giving them the strategy is not telling them to be careful of building a cult following of the wrong type of people.
And you got to be careful about what kind of life you end up building for yourself in the process, because you end up building a life for yourself that you have to now upkeep in order to keep up the views or the likes or the comments or whatever it is, right? Like, it's chasing the metrics because that's the only thing that works. If that's the front of mind thing that you want to do, like, that's the strategy. It's like, let's just get as many eyeballs on this as possible. So like, we know some creators, right? Like some creators in the barbering world who we've observed lately that their views and stuff have started to kind of plummet, you know, and half and like go down, and like, not to say that they're not doing great business, they probably are, but I wonder what's going on psychologically for them when that happens, because that's the real teller. Is it really all about chasing the 100K on Instagram if nothing else is happening off the back of it? Like, you know, why? Like, and when? Let's think about that for a second. When? Like, for us right now to get a content coach and to start dialing in on the strategy, like, I'm going to call it, you know, in the next couple of years, like, you'll see our content go viral. Within the next year, probably. You know, I don't know when, but you best believe that there's a system set up in the background, BTS, behind the scenes, behind the curtain, where we're making money from it. And we're helping a lot of other people make money from it too. It's not just we're the ones gaining from it. It's like, no, you get paid in accordance to the value that you bring. That's what Dan Martel told me the other night on the live stream. If you bring insane value for people, give everything that you have to people for free or get them to pay for it, whatever works, you will receive that value as well. And yeah, it's just really important, in my opinion, to set that GPS in the direction that you actually eventually want it to go. So optimizing with the end in mind is something that is widely overlooked, especially in barbering, because it is full of like dopamine seekers. Barbering is full of people who are just want the dopamine. When I started barbering, I was getting all of my needs met when it came to dopamine. I was getting somebody who come in, my people-pleasing needs were being met, right? First of all, because someone would come in, I would get them from A to B in 45 minutes to an hour, and they'd be delighted and they'd be happy. I'd get my dopamine hit, next one. And I was getting to do that 10 to 15 times a day. And I came from a world where if you got a pat in the back a couple of times a year, that was like worth doing all of the training and all of the sacrifice and all of the fucking whatever dedication, commitment that I went through, all the pain. I came from a lot, like the world that I came from was a lot different to her. Way harder, way tougher, way different. Takes a different level of commitment, for sure. And luckily, like, you'd be lucky if you got a well done or a pat in the back once in a while. You know, my mother would always be shouting from my corner, but like from actual, like, you know, coaches or people within the industry or whatever. But, you know, barbering right now, man, like, it's just, you know, the addiction thing really sums it up, but it is a bit of an addiction. And this is just another way of, you know, once you've done it for 2, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, that initial dopamine hit that you used to get from doing clients starts to wear off. So people start to look for it in different ways. And it's just what I mean here ultimately is just be careful of the level that you reach and what it's costing you to maintain it. Is it costing you your contentment? Is it costing you your fulfillment? Is it costing you ultimately your happiness? Because if you wake up every day and think like, oh, now I got to make another video to go viral because I did it once. It's like, be careful of the level that you get to, because now that's your new level. The old highs become the new lows. And I'm going to say that one again because listen to this one. This one hits me like a fucking ton of bricks. The old highs become the new lows. So what you once got a high from is now a new low. New level, new devil. You know, so I had to have a moment of reflection yesterday thinking about like what we do now, right? And like, what we do to help people, what we do for business, what we do for work. And, you know, I reconciled everything that we've done in the business in the last month. And I just thought, wow, if I told myself 3 or 4 years ago that I would be making that much money in a month without cutting any hair, I would have been like, wow, that's fucking crazy. Like, I wouldn't have believed it. I would have been like, get me to the Prada store, you know, before I realized that shit wasn't important. The point there is that you're always going to be chasing the next thing, and it becomes normal. So be careful what you make your normal, because it's quite often not natural. And I would opt more for the natural way of doing things. Like, I feel like our current content strategy is very natural. It's like, okay, this is what we're helping people with. This is the content that we're putting out today. This is my opinion on this particular thing. It's natural. It's easy. It's effortless. Be careful what you make normal, because you're still making something different to what it actually is. It's not natural.
Nature's choice versus your choice, right? I love that 100%. Whole scenario. And just to back up your point there, like let's take Andrew Huberman's approach on dopamine again. You got to be very careful, because the old highs become the new lows, and lower if you're not careful. So in his studies of dopamine, when you're chasing those highs, it doesn't always come back to baselines. Sometimes it drops even lower. So you've got to find an even higher high just to get back to baseline, and then it drops lower again. And then you got to go find something higher than high to drop back below baseline again. And that explains why nothing is ever good enough for anyone when they're working in the material realm. That's why no haircut is good enough for anybody. That's why clients keep coming back and keep changing themselves. Why? Dopamine up, below baseline. More. What can we do better? Below baseline. More. We do better. Oh, is it a mullet this time? Oh, yeah. Oh, is it burst fade this time? Oh, should I go blonde now? It's this constant yo. But if we're outsourcing our happiness and our love and our validation to the material world, forget it. You'll always be in that realm. You'll sit there forever. And that is why I love the conscious choice model. Find happiness and better. Find happiness, confidence, and better before you start messing with the material realm, before you start going to get your haircut, before you start going to get the mullet, the burst fade, the blonde hair, the red hair. Please find happiness, confidence, and better before that, because it's a celebration of life. Then it's a celebration of how goddamn good it is to be alive right now.
It's like this. If you can't be happy with this, if you can't be happy with a coffee, you won't be happy with $1 million. Or if you can't be happy with a coffee, you won't be happy with 1 million views. It's the simplicity, like the simple things in life, right? Like, that's what is kind of missing. And where I was going to go with that next for you, as a question for you then, is like, if that is the reality, and if that's the case, then what can people do to have those things without the interventions, without the substances, without the haircuts, without the thing? Like, how can you achieve that level of contentment and fulfillment and happiness without it? What would be your approach to that?
It's a journey. It's going to look different for everybody, but it's a journey back to self-love. It really is. Peter Crone talks about this. The moment you divorced yourself, or the moment you deserted yourself or detached from yourself, and that probably happened moons ago. You don't even know when that happened, like when you were a kid, probably, because again, it's formed in childhood behavior, right? So the way he explains it is like when a child starts to learn how the child needs to behave, it starts to behave in ways that it thinks that you are going to give it love. So it's formed by, and this is where it's hard, because yes, guys, our wounds are definitely the reason we are the way we are. 100% the reason. We had no choice in the matter. We didn't choose it, but it doesn't have to be the excuse. And the moment you can realize that, that's the difference. That's when you walk from unconscious to conscious. It's a clear line. If you just let your wounds run your life, that will be an unconscious life and you'll be in the pinball machine forever. But the moment you realize, okay, that is all the reason, all of that, all my conditioning, all my stories, all my wounding, all my trauma, all the things that I was told, good or bad, is the reason I am the way I am. 100% it is. But it doesn't have to be the excuse moving forward. I now get to choose, consciously choose, how I would like to be in the world. And not suppress, not compress, not depress, but express how I would like to be in the world. And again, that removes any right, wrong, good, bad, indifferent. It's like, let's develop a moral compass and let's go from there. So for people that are struggling with that and think that it's in the material, it's because somewhere you have a conditioning in you, and we all have had it at a certain point, especially in the Western world, that I am going to get love the way that I think you are going to give me love. And for a lot of us, that was, oh, make sure your hair is neat, make sure your clothes are... There was this external thing, and a lot of people forgot that the most important relationship with anyone is the one that you have with yourself. And how many kids are taught that? Not really. Or it might be said to them, but they're not shown that. They're still expected to be a certain way, do a certain thing, all for the parents' love. Which is why that's not unconditional love, that's conditional love. We're set into conditions so early that frames up our future. That frames up probably how we're going to be as an adult. So look, I have absolute compassion for it, but guys, like, we're all adults now, right? I'm sure anybody listening to this podcast right now is an adult, right? And I had to go through this myself. I had to wake up, grow up, show up, and clean up as an adult. I'm not a kid anymore. And that, I think that's one of the missing pieces of the Western world, is there's no rite of passage into adulthood. No one tells you, hey, Leigh, you're not a kid anymore. You're an adult. You can choose now. We miss that in the Western world. Look at all these indigenous cultures. Like, even in some people in the Western world are doing it, like Ben Greenfield, right? His two twin boys, they're 15 years old. He just sent them off on a 3-month journey, or 16 years old, 3-month journey across America on their own. See you later. No, he's not going to see him for 3 months. That's their rite of passage. You come back alive, you're now a man.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Where's that? And that's just one version, right? All these indigenous
we're wrapped
cultures.
in cotton wool, man. Like, I think...
So it says, hey, I'm going to cut the shackles of your child. You're now an adult. You can think for yourself, be who you want to be, express yourself how you would like to be consciously. And that's where we end up in this conundrum, right? Most people say, oh, it feels way more like me. They get the hair done. Oh, I feel like more like myself again. No, you don't. You feel more like the version of the person that you think you're going to get love for, which isn't you. It's a character of you. And that's terrifying. And that's the world we live in. Back to Owen's point at the start. We're in the veneer industry. We create veneers for people. As Melissa Maskey would say, we create masks for people. So
it's tough.
That's where it's tough. And that's where our work comes in. And that's all right. Yeah.
It's a tough world to be part of when you can see it like that. It actually is.
It is. It's hard because, and that's where our work comes in so powerful. And we're so early to the piece. And people are going to listen to that, be like, oh, Leigh, whatever. You think you're so, whatever. But it's so true. We help people choose the mask they want to put on for good reasons. Not to hide the version up there. Because when you consciously choose the mask that you want to put on, you realize there is no mask to put on.
You know what's wild about this? I've had people say to me, I've gone down similar paths, right? Explaining my thoughts behind the veneer to people. And people have said to me, Owen, but isn't that like bad for business to say that? Like, why would you say that? Like, if you're in the barbering industry or if you're in the hair industry, why would you say what you just said? Because isn't that bad for business? And it's like, yeah, but in the way that you're seeing it, it's bad for business. And what that tells me about what you think business is that it's a manipulation of people, and that
just
you have to
get money from them.
Yes, you have to manipulate people just to get money from them. I don't think that that's the case. Like, we are so close. Like, it is literally, if you're to look at like a diamond, right, and you're looking through the different like prisms of a diamond, we are one slight turn away from just seeing what we do completely differently. And
I love
to
that you
answer
bring that in.
to answer my own question that I brought up a minute ago about like how do we then change it if that's how we see what's happening with the condition, how do we then change it? It takes radical responsibility, but it takes radical responsibility without judgment. You have to be able to look at yourself objectively, remove the emotion and say, all right, my patterns have been running my life up to this point. This is what I had to do. So I'm using myself as an example. My patterns have been running my life up to this point. My wounds have been running my life up to this point. I can now see how this is being destructive for me. I can either be a victim and keep in my wounds and keep moving forward with the victim mentality, that everything else is causing the problems and it's not me. Or I can say, you know what? It's time for me to clean up my fucking shit. It's time for me to clean up my act. It's time for me to take responsibility for my actions and my wounds. It's not my fault, but it is my responsibility. And I need to remove the judgment of everything up to this point, because now I can only fully see it. And everything after this point is a choice. And then the hero's journey starts again, right? Then we go back to fucking ground zero again, and we start uncovering new layers of ourselves again. Because I still have moments where I'm triggered. I still have moments where I judge. I still have moments where I do things that I'm not particularly proud of. But the majority of what I contribute to the world is anchored in more positivity and more awareness and more conscious choice. Yep. So that's the big difference. So
I love it.
How do we then bring that when we clean up our own shit, right? So when I clean up myself, that's where the prism changes. Right? Because I go from unconscious choice of, okay, if I can make this person think that I'm the best barber for them because I'm the only one who can fix their problems, I'm always going to keep them in my chair. I don't know how we went from virality to this, by the way, but here we go. But if we turn the prism slightly and say, how can I help this person to feel great in their vessel and give them the lens and the view of the world that like life is so bloody good right now that we get to do this and that we get to change how we look. Because once you're doing it from that place, it's a different feeling. It's a different thing. The coffee means so much more, right? Before I took coffee for granted. That's why I brought the coffee cup into it earlier. Before I thought it was just part of life and I deserved it and it was just what was expected, right? Like no perspective, absolutely no perspective whatsoever on the world and what has happened in history and how good life actually is. The fact that I get to sit here in Bali, have a conversation with you, all this bloody equipment around me to record being projected out to many, many humans. Do you know the effort that Jesus had to go through to even just get his message started? Like, you fucking crazy right now? So anyway, we're so close, man, to like just turning that prism.
I think, you know, in the next couple of years, like we're in the spiritual world, so I'm going to take it there. 2027, they think there's going to be a radical shift, right? But like, I just want to touch on your point there of that, what some people think business is. If you think business is manipulating people at all costs to get money out of them, that might be your own block. That might be the thing that's going to block you from getting where you want to go in life. Because if you think I have to manipulate people to, or that's what a successful business is to get money, you might either like once you start thinking about that, you might like that or not like that. If you don't like that, that's going to block you, and you're the only one that can change it.
Yeah,
and because that can be a block, right? So because if you flip it, if you think, oh wow, if the way to do business is successful businesses are people that want to help people for the betterment and think about the ripple effect to give them value and put them in a net positive place, everybody loves that. They're going to go, oh great, that's probably going to shoot you through even further. And to the judgment piece, like, you know, you can't not judge others while you still judge yourself. You have to stop judging yourself first so that you can judge others. That's how I know people still judge themselves, because they judge others. That's how if they're judging others openly and freely and like it's a normal thing, they still judge themselves.
And I
again,
just, I
that's
want to caveat, like,
weird.
we're not there yet. We're not, like, it's the
Oh,
hero's
dude.
journey, right? Like, I judge people all the fucking
this
time.
is-
Like,
yeah, but I
but I know
um,
that's my work to do, you know?
yeah, and we speak to this because we know this stuff and it's real for us and we're doing a hell of a lot of work. But even the difference, this is why I love language so much, even the difference between judgment and discernment. Discernment is different. Is that going to be good for me or not for me? You know, I've worked very hard to try and let my judgments go, but I'm still pretty bullish on discernment though. We need some gauge of like what to do in life, you know? I think that's why
Yeah.
people are afraid to let judgment go, because they think, what, is my life just going to be a big walkover then? It's like, no, you can still have discernment. And discernment is slightly different without the negative emotions attached to it. So, yeah, massive.
Well, that's
man.
it. There's duality in everything, right? Like that, the duality of manipulation is an interesting one, because there's two types and two forms of manipulation. There's positive and there's negative. There's coercion and there's persuasion, right? If you're persuading somebody to do something that is good for them, net positive for them, in the end, how is that a bad form of manipulation? It's not. But if you're coercing them into doing something so that you can gain from it and they don't, that's negative. So let's use an example here. Somebody who's morbidly obese, really, really fat, right? And they're about to die. Like they go to the doctor, they've been told, this is wrong, your heart is struggling, blah, 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 blah. If you could persuade that person to start losing the weight, don't care how you do it, but it works, and they start losing the weight and then they actually end up living as a result of it, is that not a positive way to manipulate someone? Or you say, you know what, they're fat anyway, so I'm just going to sell them more junk food and more McDonald's and keep marketing to them and selling them the opposite side of things. That's a coercion. You're gaining from somebody else's downfall. You know, like, and it's such a fine line to walk, because depending on how somebody looks at the world and depending on how they view what's happening in the world, they will either make a judgment on whether something is coercion or persuasion. And it's not often them, it's often their ego who's making the judgment on it. So it's a fine line to walk, because, you know, sometimes we go down the road of, you know, like Antony, our content coach, he sometimes goes down the road of negative hook first to then bring it back around to the positive. And that is a manipulation of some sort, but it has net positive returns on the other side. It's a persuasion to, hey, this is what you're currently potentially doing wrong, and this is what you could be doing better, and it will give you a better life for the results that you want. Because if you're to bring discernment into it, it's like, okay, we need to judge it somehow. We need to know if there's a right and wrong depending on the result that you want. Ultimately, you know, there is no real right and wrong. We're all making this shit up anyway, because that's just the way the world is. But if we are saying, I want to be healthier, but then you look in the mirror and you're morbidly obese, something is clearly going wrong. If you don't have any preference for how you are or how you look or how you feel, then nothing's wrong. But we have to have some sort of discernment to figure out what's right and what's wrong. So for me, right, if somebody is broke, if a barber comes to me and they're broke and they have a family and they can't feed their kids and they're working all the hours under the sun, and I have the solution for it, and I know how I can help that person based on what they're telling me, and I don't try to persuade that person to change their life, then what the fuck am I even doing? Mm-hmm. Like, or what could I do? I could coerce them into like buying something that I know is not going to work. There's a big difference, right? Like, it's like coercing a client to stay in your chair because they have a receding hairline. It's like, oh yeah, your hairline's so bad. Like, I think I'm the only barber for you. Versus just deliver the goods. And like, whenever clients used to say it to me, when I was in the barbershop, clients used to say, oh, do you think my corners are going? Or do you think I'm getting lighter on the corners? This is something that barbers deal with all the time, probably daily. Do you think the corners are getting a bit lighter? My response would always be like, no, bro, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just don't even what are you worried about? Like, the more you worry about it, the more it will happen. And that is a fact. I used to, like, there was a period of time where I thought that there was a certain product that was making my hair fall out that I was using. And as that was a thought, my hair was falling out in the shower. No longer does my hair fall out in the shower, right? Because that's not even a thought. But a barber, when they're presented with that problem, for example, not a problem, but presented with that opportunity, has two choices in that moment. You see a choice to manipulate somebody to stay with you because you're the only person that can then solve that problem for them, or you have the choice of empowerment. Which one are you going to choose? Same thing with your content. To bring it full circle back to the virality thing, same thing with your content. Are you going to contribute to the collective garbage, or are you going to actually fucking do some shit that's valuable and useful? Stop being lazy, man. That's the thing. I put it in my post the other day. It's fucking lazy, bro. And so many people have so much magic to give to the world, but they're just going for the easy, low-hanging fruit, lazy content.
Yeah. So all of the, you know, the world's genius right now is just being consumed into lazy viral content. Like it, and that's, you know, it's partly my opinion, but partly what I read from people, the greats like Seth Godin, you know, being cheap and going for the fucking negative stuff and making people feel bad and all this kind of stuff. It's easy. Yeah. Because of the psychology of the mind. It's just low hanging fruit, easy stuff with net negative returns, sadly. So, yeah, dude, and look,
clear up a bit of space first. That's the thing. You need space to be able to do it well.
And like that's where, you know, the quote keeps ringing true in my mind. You can't intervene with a world you can't see. You know, it's like a barber's never gonna help, never gonna talk someone off the perch about their hairline. Say, nah, you got nothing to worry about, dude. Just like find, you know, you got to find inner love. They do. They have to. They haven't found love for themselves, and the barber can't show them that if they haven't either. Can't intervene with a world you can't see. Once the barbers heal, they'll start healing their clients. But until that point, it just ain't gonna happen, man. We will always get the majority of the people saying, "Oh, but that's bad for business." Okay, so are you just gonna take? We're back to responsibility again. You're gonna take no responsibility for the work that you put into the world. None. Zero. You're just gonna say, "I'm just gonna cut people's hair because that's what they want. I'm gonna run with them. I'm going to make it look like a problem, even though it puts them in a shame spiral, even though that's bad for them, even though that might end up with psychological issues, mental health issues, even leading to suicide and addiction. I don't care. I'm going to do that. Why? Because businesses manipulate people to get money. I need to make money, so I'm going to do it at all costs. Okay, but that's easy to do. That's so easy. That's saying like, oh, I can't do hard shit anymore. I just don't want to take responsibility for it. I just want to do that. Or you can take the other road and maybe make a difference in the world and empower people and give them value and help them find inner love so that we can start to respect this world a bit more and appreciate how frigging good it is to be a human right now. How fortunate we even are to get haircuts the way we are. How fortunate you even are to get a coffee the way you got it this morning. You know the amount of technology that even had to go into making them that way? Wild. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a complete disrespect for how bloody good it is to be alive right now. It's a disrespect to human life. It's a disrespect to our privilege, especially as Western people. Come on, guys. Come on.
But it's like, do you want to make an impact, or do you just want to make some sort of impression on the world, you know, and it doesn't matter what the impression looks like, you know, and I think that's a nice way to kind of wrap up the conversation in a sense, is like, what kind of impact do you want to leave on the world? And taking responsibility for that, because ultimately that's what it comes back to. It's like, what are you doing? And don't be surprised when you choose the positive impact that it doesn't necessarily go viral as quickly, because that's just not the game that's playing. But at the end of your life, when you're on your deathbed, do you want to look back and think, yeah, I contributed in the best way that I possibly could, or I just let the trends pull me around and like manipulated people, coerced people, and just picked up on people's pain points in order to have my own self-gain? God is always watching, you know. That's what you got to remember. God is always watching, and you will be rewarded. And if you don't be rewarded, like, it doesn't matter what is rewarded. You got to figure out what that is for you in your own internal compass. You know, like, for some people, being rewarded is $1 million in the bank. You know, it's like, that's not necessarily the the goal either. Like, it doesn't matter. If you have $1 million in the bank and you do it through manipulating people and doing it in a negative way, let's get back to the, you know that it's not a good thing. And your internal compass, your heart is always going to tell you what's right. Because some of the most successful people in the world, right, quote unquote successful, they're the most depressed, can't figure out why. The list goes on of negative things that are associated to them. Why is that? Because they're not doing good shit for fucking human beings. Like, do good shit. And even if it means that you slightly put yourself on the line the way we do. Like, I think we completely put ourselves on the line. It would be so easy right now, bro, to just play into the manipulation thing.
Easy.
And be absolutely loaded. Going around with my fucking Go-Yard bags and Pradas and this and that, right? Bawling. But I don't care. I wouldn't want to be bawling if people are bawling, crying as a result of it in the background.
Exactly.
You know? So, like, you have a choice, guys. You have a choice. You can either go viral, but just be careful that that doesn't take a spiral.
Yeah.
You can be popular, or you can have profit, or, you know, you can make an impact, or you can just leave a shitty impression. Yeah. So be careful.
And I think a nice way to round out is, like, you know, it boils back to, like, responsibility and time, right? Like, yes, go viral. Yes, it's a function of business. Yes, if you've got something to sell on the back of it, fantastic, go viral. But think of the ripple effect, not just for others, but for yourself. Love yourself enough to give yourself the respect of not becoming someone that you know you don't want to become. Because at the end of your days, when you get to the last day of your life, you don't want to look back and go, God damn it, I spent most of my time trying to be someone else and I wasn't me. I guarantee you wish you were you more. I guarantee you wish you'll say, I wish I didn't pay attention to what people thought of me, or all that jargon, right? So if you are going to go viral, fill it with you, fill it with love, and fill it with value, fill it with net positive things and gain for the world. Not just for others, but for you. Be the person you want to be. Don't live this double life. Don't be a character. One of the most dangerous things you could do in life is become a character in your own life. Because I guarantee you do it for long enough, you will lose yourself. You won't know who you are, and you will have an identity crisis.
Preach.
Full circle. Do it for you and do it for others.
You can do it for the vanity, or you can do it for the sanity. It's your choice. At this point in time in the world, it's a choice. The information's out there, you're just choosing not to listen to it. It's a choice. If you hear this and you don't go about things differently, then it's a choice. You're choosing to contribute negatively to the world. Sorry, but it's true. And you could go down this road instead. You could go down the unlimited road instead, where you can have it all. Because you can have whatever you want.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to do a part 2 of this as well, Lee. I think we're going to have to
100%.
do another.
But I just want to, leave it on that. You know, the great Paul Chek always says, it's time to clean up, show up, and grow up. We have to. Yeah. We're adults now. Like, we got to grow up at some point.
100%. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Amazing. It's been a pleasure.
Hope you took some value from that. And until next week.